And we're going to kind of continue on this sort of same trajectory of product assessment, market characterization, and then logic model presentation, but for room heat pumps. So this is the second technology that CalMTA is developing a market transformation initiative plan for submission into the application at the end of the year. So I'll turn it over to Tom and let him share the information about these products.
Thanks, Stacy.
Mhm.
Next slide, please. And keep going. So first thing I wanted to just mention was we've actually just changed the name of the initiative kind of to reflect our emphasis. So we used to call it portable and window heat pumps, and now we're calling it room heat pumps. So portables are still a part of the product MTI, but we're trying to call it room heat pumps because we want to emphasize those are the more efficient, better performing products, and that's what we're kind of focusing on first. And also changing from room to window, just a little bit more in line with the federal appliance standard category that is both window and through the wall heat pumps. I will say we are adding through the wall heat pumps to the MTI. It's really not a focus, and we're not trying to put new through the wall heat pumps on, installing, knocking holes in the building envelope. But we think that specifically for buildings that already have a sleeve, and have a through the wall AC, that represents an easy opportunity. So that's the part we want to do there. Not doing anything fundamental with really focusing on that, but there's that replacement opportunity. And that's all. So a few more, this isn't comprehensive, but just a reminder of our product definition. We are only using 120-volt plug-in products, and we're focusing on inverter-driven variable capacity. We think these provide the best performance, especially given the mild California winters. And one thing that is a slight change, instead of just saying it has to be something that can be do-it-yourself, self-install, we're kind of clarifying that and say we want products that can be installed without a certified HVAC technician or electrician. And we think, especially in multifamily, building property managers are probably going to have someone may install them for their tenants. And Hope will go into that a little more. She's had some findings that kind of helped inform that adjustment. But we think you still get the savings of a cheap installation that way, but kind of opening it up a little bit. Next slide, please. So one of the big product, I wouldn't say finding, but the most important part of products in this category are the introduction of these new all-weather saddlebag products, and these were both in response to the NYCHA Clean Heat for All challenge. And these products are really a kind of a fundamental step change in the performance compared to existing window and room heat pumps. And I highlighted a few things there. You can just see, these operate down below 0 degrees Fahrenheit, -7 or -13, with a high COP even at low temperatures. And also I want to highlight also above that, they also very efficient at cooling. So the CEER around 16 actually already meets the federal appliance standard for just the window AC in 2026. So these are very efficient units, both at heating and cooling, and also operating over a wide range. And we think, all weather is a great name for them, not just cold climate, because they provide cooling and heating. So it's really, these are exciting products in terms of really stepping up the performance of plug-in heat pumps. One thing I do want to note, sorry, I keep tricking you there, talk about with the stop, but the weight. So typical window AC and window heat pumps are often around maybe 50, 60 pounds. These are over 100 pounds. So again, when you talk about self-install, just being aware, that there's a big difference there in terms of the overall size and weight of these products. And you need that for the heating performance. Next slide, please. So just want to kind of give a little backdrop on California climate. It's kind of busy, but the bars are the 16, the climate zone. Those are the population in the 16 California climate zones. The line is the heating degree days. So just, a representation of how much heating do you need, or how cold is not how cold is the climate, but how much heating is required during the winter there. And the one thing I want to note with that, the most important takeaway probably is just Climate zone 16 and 1, which represent some of the largest heating loads, are the smallest for population. So sometimes you may think of a strategy that may satisfy, 80, 90% of California population with certain products, and there may be some others for those smaller groups. So not to exclude them, but it may be kind of a separate focus just because especially 16 can have some extreme heating requirements compared to the rest of California. Next slide, please. So, this, I guess recently this summer, they just came out with the final version. EPA released the final version of the new test method for room heat pumps, and which is really exciting. And this is a great opportunity for us to have that quantification of the heating capacity and efficiency of these products. But it also gives us kind of this tiered set of categories where with the what temperatures do they operate, which is kind of a common language for to engage with manufacturers for. And so these bars just represent the range of outdoor temperatures which they operate. I will note the way that it's defined, that's kind of the max range. They can be they're a little different than exactly this, but it's just a generally how these types are categorized. And if you look at the bottom, type 1, these are products that don't have active defrost, and they really only heat to about 40 degrees Fahrenheit outdoor. So you're going to need backup electrical resistance or some other form of heating. They can't be the primary sole source of heating, for multifamily or for anyone. You're going to need something else there. Then you go all the way to the top, type 4. That's what these new all-weather saddlebag products are. They can provide high capacity heating at any outdoor conditions. Certainly that you'll see in California. Maybe not anywhere, but definitely in California. And then in the middle, you have these two intermediate, type 2 and type 3. So, providing heating down somewhere close to 20 degrees or possibly down, down around 5 degrees. And again, those are the max ranges of them. But when these are products that are kind of in between. They're not quite as high performance in terms of cold climate, but also, could be very viable for California climate, which I'll talk about next. And one thing I want to note is, exciting news, Elaine may talk about it, but there may be something dropping in between type 2 or 3 recently that they were talking about at Energy Star. So good to know that there may be more products coming. Next slide, please. So when we think about those different types of heat pumps in terms of the California climate needs, and I do want to specify before I say this is based on typical weather years. So an average of 10 years, with a typical weather, and this does not account for extreme weather events. So this isn't the complete story, but just gives you some picture of what a typical heating needs are in California. So again, talking about climate zone 1 and 16, only about 2% of California's population need the all-weather, type 4 product. So 98% could have a type 3 or type 2 and satisfy all their needs during typical winters. So I think that's an important thing when we think about balancing cost and performance of what the needs of California are. As you go to, as you have products that maybe don't operate to such low temperatures, there can be some efficiencies in terms of price that may be gained, and that's key with manufacturer engagement. Next slide, please. So we've done a lot of different energy modeling to try to understand, energy savings, avoided costs, and also bill impacts for these heat pumps. And I just want to say, before we get into a few results that are with energy modeling, obviously there's a wide range of different types of buildings, wide range of different types of performance of products, and there's also, the user behavior of thermostat settings that can push these quite a bit one way or another. So we use this energy modeling as indicative of kind of understanding strategy and what may happen, but obviously there's a lot of variability. And even, we're modeling a 24 unit multifamily building. That's actually two 12 unit buildings that are faced in perpendicular to kind of get different effects of solar. But even within that one unit in one weather, you can have a significant difference in the energy consumption in each unit if it's on the top floor, the bottom floor, south facing, north facing. So just want to say that as a caveat to how we view energy modeling as kind of directional. But if you look at this modeling, and again, I want to state we're looking at the room heat pump with the all-weather units. So this is kind of representing high performance products, high efficiency and heat pump performance across the whole range. And when you use one of these products, you can see significant energy savings. So when you switch from, say, electric baseboards to a room heat pump, you're able to get about a 30% savings in annual energy consumption on HVAC and 55% from a gas wall furnace. So there's really significant savings there. And then again, to look at the portable heat pumps, which are a lower efficiency product compared to the room heat pumps, those use about 40% more on average than a room heat pump does. Jeff?
Sorry, just clarifying. So you're using kilowatt hours per square foot EUI over there for the gas wall furnaces. Did you convert BTUs to kilowatt hours?
Yeah, it's not always the best when you're doing different fuels, but it was just a conversion to kilowatt for the gas there. Yeah.
Thanks.
Next slide, please. So, this is using the same framework of bill impacts that we talked about on induction. So taking three different, and this is actually, right now, this is just the IOU rates. And so we took three different time of use IOU rates. And one thing I want to say here, again, because of this variability, both on climate zone and other things, we're just applying all three IOU rates across all 16 climate zones. So we understand there are specifics. Obviously every IOU rate is not in every climate zone, but we're not trying to look at those specific findings about which IOU is higher or lower based on a climate zone. We're just trying to look, here's weather and general time of use rates and how that bill impacts are affected by that. So the two bars that are representing, again, either a switch from electrical resistance in blue or from gas furnace in the orange color. So you can see across all climate zones, when you're not doing fuel switching, when it's just an electric efficiency gain from a efficiency of about a COP of 1 on electric resistance to an average COP around 3 for these highly efficient room heat pumps, you have a significant energy benefit, or sorry, bill benefit. So savings of somewhere around $75 to up to $300 annually based on this 1,000 square foot multifamily unit. So very, very significant possibility of savings there. Now, when we do fuel switching, it's not really high negative impacts for this, but you see a lot right around 0. And then again, in that extreme weather with a lot more heating in 16, you're down to about $100 annually increase. And I do want to say this is, again, with these highly efficient units. So, there's a lot in between the best performing saddlebags and the portable heat pumps. And in that case, with portable heat pumps, it's not shown here due to time constraints, but the negative bill impacts on average are about $80, but they range all the way up to $200 negative gas bill impacts annually when you use a portable heat pump. So we want to be very careful when we think about fuel switching with portable heat pumps or some lower efficiency heat pumps, because that could be a significant detriment to the user. Jeff? Can you stand and talk about that?
I'm guessing you didn't do this, but did you look at all at the potential for load shifting to take advantage of different time of use rates? These are new products. We could build load shifting capability into the products.
So I think that's we kind of identified that as a future, something we want to study in the future. And we do, in our MTI product definition, we want products that are capable of smart thermostats and interaction there, because we think that there are benefits there in the future. And I think the biggest benefit there is not necessarily when it's your sole source of heating, but possibly in a large home that may be using this as a displacement in a certain area. Then you can interact with the main thermostat, and maybe even the DR benefits there could be significantly more than with again, if it's just with the primary source of heat and cooling. But it's something we're very interested in. We haven't gone that far yet.
Thanks.
Next, please. So looking again, this is just the summary of the bill impacts, averaging all climate zones and looking at the 3 IOU rates and then the SMUD rate. So one thing I put here, is looking at the spark gap, or the ratio between the cost of electricity to gas, again, converting to kilowatt hours. So for these for the IOU rates, the spark gap on average, again, this is when we take the whole year's worth of usage and take the effective energy rate. You're looking at about 5 to 6.5 for the IOUs, and the SMUD spark gap is about 2. So basically, you have to, with a 5 to 6.5 spark gap, you need your increase in efficiency when you do fuel switching to be that high. And that's, even for very efficient heat pumps, that's a challenge to get up that high. So it's just something to be aware of, that based on this rate structure, it makes fuel switching challenging. And it's something that we, continue to look into and be aware of. And then again, here's just emphasizing the difference between portables and room heat pumps. About twice the negative bill impacts for a portable compared to a room heat pump. So again, portable heat pumps still present a good savings when you're just doing resistance to portables, as long as they're not the sole source of heating, because they can't go very low, but you can get some benefits there. But you want to be very careful with fuel switching, especially. Do we want to cover something? Randall, did you? Let's see. I'm reading this right now.
So he's looking at whether the efficiency of cooling is the same for the
Oh yeah,
same for base
thank you.
case, and
That's a good thing to point out. So we are, in this case, we were assuming that there is even efficiency on cooling between the heat pump and the window AC. So all the savings here are on the heating side, and that's based on kind of, if you look at the CER level of these saddlebag units, they're around 16, which is also the federal minimum for window ACs coming in 2026, when we're actually active in this MTI. So we think that that really the benefit's going to come on the heating side in terms of bill saving, or any bill impacts, but also all the energy usage.
Randall, does that answer?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
I mean, well, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, most of the analyses I've seen shows that, any new heat pump is going to, or AC unit for that matter, is going to be higher than what it replaces. Because if the AC unit or existing heat pump unit is, at the end of its useful life, it's going to be it has a lower efficiency, not necessarily through degradation, although that's a key aspect of it, but just because it was purchased at a time when the minimum efficiency was a lot lower. So I think if you're looking at realistic replacement efficiencies on the cooling side, it will increase. And most of the studies I've seen take that into account. We certainly do in our own analyses.
So this and that's 100% true. The way that our baseline here is based on the way we're tracking savings. So for normal replacement, it's the consideration of what the person will buy as opposed to a heat pump. So a brand new AC or a brand new electrical resistance gas furnace. So our savings are based on the counterfactual of what the other HVAC equipment they would have purchased was. So there is much greater savings compared to their existing equipment, but compared to what they could purchase right now in as opposed to the heat pump, that's what this efficiency is based on. And that's how we what we use for the savings for the when we're calculating TSV for the program. And there's a question about the COP. So for the heat pumps, so we're using, based off the manufacturer published specs for the saddlebag units. So it comes out to be about an HSPF just above 9, HSPF 2. So that's an effective, COP a little above 3 or right around 3. And then the COP for the portable heat pumps, it's down in the mid 2s. And that's actually the rated. So the effective COP of the portable heat pumps is below 2. It's like 1.8, something in the high 1s. Okay.
Yeah, and Tom, I should just mention, I want to just be clear, all the work that Tom has done with 2050 Partners and this product assessment is going to be summarized in a report, in the full, product assessment that'll be appended to the Market Transformation Initiative Plan. So I think, I want to just it's just occurring to me. People have questions, which is totally valid, and we'll answer them. But also, this will all be summarized. So I just want to
Okay.
make sure folks know that's coming.
Yep. And I think we're getting close to the end. Just want to go over again, avoided costs. This is just this isn't the TSB calculations, which will be covered later, but this is just kind of a snapshot of what are the benefits, this is just on an annualized basis. And we see that for the room heat pumps, has about a 30% higher benefit on average than the portables. The benefit of the multifamily is somewhat lower than the single family, and that's just due to the difference in heating loads. You have more exposed walls, and you typically have a significant, there is a significantly higher required heating load in the single family compared to multifamily. So that's really where that difference is driven between the two. And I think that's all we need to cover here. Any questions on this?
Can you leave the slide up for just a minute?
Sure.
I'm still digesting.
And one thing I just want to mention while we're talking about avoided costs, if you look, for anyone familiar with that this is taking an average of 2024 to 2052. That's not the one product lifetime. That's kind of a range of what we're tracking in terms of when, our program plus that time at the end is when products have been installed plus their useful life. There's a very big difference in what that avoided cost benefit is today in 2024 versus 2050. It's almost a factor of 4 difference that avoided cost annually in 2024 compared to 2052 because of things like both the grid and the gas effects that are combined in the avoided cost calculator. So just want to mention that. Anything that you want to discuss, Jeff?
No, thanks.
Okay.
We can move on.
All right. Thank you.
And then, really quick, just want to mention that, we were looking at refrigerants and their impact on the greenhouse gas emissions. The R410A, which is being phased out, has a very much higher GWP. Most current products use R32. And then, looking at the other case of what a natural refrigerant would be and looking at how much, if you assume all that's emitted, how much greenhouse gas emissions there would be just from the refrigerant. And it represents for R32, there's a nice reduction from the R410A. But if you use the 20-year GWP, that's still 20% of the life cycle GHG emissions. So can be significant, again, depending on how you look at it there. And then R290, it's less than 1%. R290 is propane, which is flammable. There are significant barriers to implementing that due to some, actual safety and also some code. We think that these small products, which are hermetically sealed and have very low charge, actually still represent a possibility to make that change. And it's kind of the best place to start with natural refrigerants that may be A3 flammable. And we do have some early conversations with manufacturers that would be supportive of moving that way. So it's not something we may be initiating, but we would be supportive and try to help that along. Next slide, please. And just briefly, other product needs that we've identified. We do think that products that have filtration and ventilation can provide good benefits in terms of both indoor air quality. You can also get some cooling savings with economizing in California. So these aren't things that we think will come on in the short term, but we do think that these a future state, having products with these types of options would be very beneficial, especially again air filtration for smaller multifamily buildings. We think is a really key need. And next, please. So, just going what we want, covering really quick what we want in the short term. We didn't really talk about this. This is kind of out of order because Hope's really going to be talking about it. We do think there are product needs for vertical window openings. I'll leave that for Hope to talk about what we found there. And then also, again, balancing price and performance. There are some really great performing products. We just want to be mindful of those upfront costs, especially for ESJ communities and, for buying these heat pumps. So seeing what we can do there to balance the two. In the long term, looking at those transition to natural refrigerants, and then also making sure there are products with air filtration and ventilation. And lastly, summary. Go ahead. So just again, and emphasizing that we are changing to room heat pumps because that's our priority. These are what we think are the more efficient, better performing products that we're trying to push as the first, as a first priority. These new all-weather products have a very high performance, and we think that that's great. But we want to manage, also be mindful of how we get those into the market, aware that there's the significant cost jump in those compared to the lower performing existing products. We do not see that there's a big bill savings when you're just switching from electric resistance heat, which is a huge opportunity. Just need to be more mindful of when switching from gas makes sense, or educating customers so they're aware of those trade-offs when they're making that choice. And then again, we want to look at heat pumps for vertical openings because that represents a large amount of the building stock in California, and future looking at air filtration and low GWP. And I think that's all. If we can, I think we're a little behind schedule, but I don't know if there are any more questions.
I think you're fine. We're fine. We'll make it. Yeah, if anybody has questions on Tom's piece, and of course those can get raised later, but I want to just make sure.
And yeah, Randall?
Randall.
Yeah, maybe it was answered in the chat, but I noticed that the change in this product category you're looking at now through the wall. So does that mean that PTACs or PTHPs are now included in
No,
this
those are actually in a
category?
different appliance category. So through the wall heat pumps are part of the ones that we're looking at are part of the the room air conditioner federal appliance category. So limiting it to that appliance category. My understanding is they don't represent a very large percent of of products sold or products available, but again they serve that niche with that wall sleeve especially for multifamily. And I will note that there are some window heat pumps, depending on how they're configured, that actually can also be installed as through the wall heat pumps, or well, air conditioners. I don't know if there are any that are double on the heat pump side, but the form factor can be used for both in some cases.
So two comments on that earlier slide where you say through the wall, you should qualify that does not include PTACs. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
And then the second thing, I would disagree. I think there's hundreds of thousands of PTACs existing. They all have the same sleeve, and they're all probably pretty low efficiency in multifamily, and of course, motels. So I think there's an opportunity to replace those, or replace on burnout, or early replacement, either way, with higher efficiency units. So and that could be done by maintenance staff. So I mentioned that before, but I realize that if we're more, well, if that's not the target, that's fine. But if we're starting to look at any through the wall units, it seems that PTAC should be included. I understand it's a totally different class of equipment, but conceptually it's the same. And I think the replacement of PTHPs, existing PTHPs, could be a huge market.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I think
could I jump in, Tom?
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to, Randall, I think it's a great comment. Thank you. Tom and I had this very same debate not too long ago, and Tom won that debate. Kind of one thing to think about here is the definition that Tom is working through is really kind of aligned with the DOE and EPA product definition, and they have through the wall product in that definition, but PTACs are held separately. Also, different target market. and different strategies and barriers. However, I just do want to acknowledge that there's a lot of similarities and a lot of opportunities for what we learn here and how we engage with the manufacturers here to potentially spill over into that other market. And so that other, PTAC for more of the hospitality market could very well turn into a future, either future MTI or kind of an offshoot of this MTI.
And I think one reason early that it was excluded was for the plug-in, the idea that it would be a plug-in, 120 volt power and plug-in. So I mean, those are good notes and something we should consider. I think there's some overlap and like Jeff said, even if it's not technically part of the MTI definition. So we should continue to be thoughtful about PTHPs.
And then another comment while I've got the floor, while I'm still on the floor here, Tom. Just wanted to acknowledge, I believe that the ACC has been updated for 2024. In our initial calculations through stage 1 scoring, used the 2022 avoided cost calculator. Did you use the 24 with what we're showing today, or is that something that we can talk about updating? Because I know the avoided cost went up quite a lot from a TSP standpoint in the new calculator.
Yeah, these are 2024.
Okay.
We did it both, and then we updated to 2024. It's interesting, we're still going through and making sure we understand all the changes because it was recent when we've done those updates. For induction, the difference was not too big, 10 to 12%, but for portables, for room heat pumps, we're seeing a bigger jump. So just make sure we understand that fully, the difference with the same load shape and getting those different avoided cost benefits. But yeah, we are currently moving forward with the 2024 version of the avoided cost calculator.
Great, thanks.
All right, Jeff Harris.
Yeah, this is sort of a question / comment. I know that you mentioned this earlier about the difference between a tier 2 product that doesn't have defrost, doesn't have to address defrost because it only operates. Yeah.
Type 1 is the only one without active defrost. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So type 2 actually does go down to defrost. Okay. All right. So that was my question. The observation or something to think about is, the cost to do defrost and some of the implications for the equipment gets significant. And even in the climate zones in California, where you might dip down occasionally below, 35 degrees where your defrost becomes an issue, it seems like it'd be worth doing the analysis on trade-offs on that. Because
so we did do that, actually. That's a great point.
Okay.
And that's actually specifically why we didn't exclude type 1 products from the MTI. We found that, again, with so much of the heating time and heating load at these mild conditions, someone who has a existing heat pump that only works down to 40 degrees, they can still get, I think it's around 80% of the benefit compared to if the whole range was heat pump operation. Not every climate zone, but for those a lot of SoCal and the LA area, there's a huge benefit still to those heat pumps without defrost, and the price is so much closer to a window AC that having that availability with a low product cost is important, I think.
Yeah, I would concur with that. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, thanks, Tom. I'm going to go ahead and move us on. Get Hope on the dais. Say.
Sure.
All right, Hope, go ahead.
Sure. Hey, can I just get a quick time check from you, Stacey? It looks like I think we only have. How fast should I run through these, or should I say?
Yeah, I think you're okay. Yeah, I mean, if you can finish by like 1:05.
Okay, great. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay. There's a few that I think got sufficient airtime in Tom's conversation. So if I'm moving too fast on any, someone please feel free to slow me down or pop in with questions. Go ahead to the next slide. Okay, so I'm going to jump in just to kind of the key findings as I did in induction. A really big kind of overarching supply side barrier that we found in our research is that room heat pumps are pretty challenging to find and buy. They're not available, based on the research that we did, in brick and mortar stores. And with a couple of exceptions, there's not really sufficient product differentiation in even online storefronts, or even in product descriptions from the manufacturers, to really convey the benefits that these products offer and that they are using heat pump technology, reverse cycling. And overall, I think that has really dampened product awareness. Next slide. And I will say, the one exception to this would be gradient and the gradient model, which is very clear in that product niche and that it is a heat pump. But otherwise, we're having, some difficulty there in understanding which products are heat pumps and which are not. The team did actually a technical review of portable ACs and room ACs that also offer heating. There are products out there that offer dual heating and cooling that are not heat pumps. And so it takes a lot of kind of digging and some technical knowledge to really figure out which ones are the more efficient models and which ones are using heat pump technology. So this was a very manual review, actually completed by Tom's team. Of the products that were reviewed, they were able to verify 31 of them as either a portable form type or a room type heat pump. From that list, about half were available to purchase at a major retailer. And when I say a major online retailer, I'm not talking about buying it direct from the manufacturer. I'm talking about being listed on Home Depot, Lowe's, Best Buy, Walmart. So there's some work there, I think, in engaging retailers and manufacturers and how these are listed. In our store visit, which I mentioned earlier, we also found zero. What we did find in the research is they are being marketed under really a wide range of names. There's portable AC, there's portable air conditioning with, the heating capacity. There's window AC, there's room air conditioner and heater. These are all names that we found, product names that are actually room heat pumps or portable heat pumps. Next slide. So this is one I think I can move us on pretty quickly from, because we talked at length about this in Tom's presentation, but just confirming that from the market standpoint and from the consumer standpoint, as well as property managers, there is concern about bill impacts, and particularly switching from gas heat is going to be a barrier for adoption. Next slide. We heard in our focus groups and in our surveys that consumers are really, really focused on this in California. They're very wary of electric bill increases. So this does need to be messaged carefully and targeted carefully at the consumers that are going to benefit from adopting a room heat pump. You can see in the charts, we broke that out by renter and owner. Concern about electric bill impacts is second to the upfront cost in terms of challenges in purchasing one. But on the flip side, again, room heat pumps do offer an opportunity for anyone who's using an electric resistance heat. So there is opportunity to build on that and harness, the momentum that consumers are wanting to choose efficient options, and they're looking for efficient options when they're shopping. So the more we kind of work with manufacturers to get out that message, and eventually with the Energy Star spec, that's going to be a real opportunity. Next slide. Okay, so for this finding, building on the prior slide about heating and the opportunities there for saving on costs and saving on energy, we found that there is potential for room heat pumps to replace space heaters and displace other heating modes based on what people told us and how people are currently using their space heaters. This is what we learned from our survey. Next slide. About 18% of California households have a space heater, and 40% of those people are using their space heater daily.
Wow.
people who are I'm sorry, and I should say in the winter months. They're not using it daily in the summer, but we asked about in the winter months. Space heater users also told us that they will move away from their other sources of heat. So 94% of space heater owners are going to turn down or turn off completely other sources of heating, which really underscores the opportunity for similar behavior for a room heat pump, which is exactly what we would want to happen. Thank you. Looking ahead, we also heard that about 40% of Californians are planning to purchase a space heater in the next 5 years. So there is an opportunity there to, if we can get more awareness around room heat pumps and the benefits that they offer, particularly over a really inefficient electric resistant space heater, there's opportunity there to really take on that market. Next slide. Room heat pumps are highly applicable to small dwellings, as we heard from Tom. He went into this a little bit. For example, multifamily apartments and small single-family homes could have all of their heating needs potentially met by a room heat pump, but there are some concerns among property managers and also renters that should be addressed in order to really engage this market and see more adoption within the multifamily market and for renters. Next slide. So in our interviews, we found property managers really saw the value in room heat pumps for the potential to increase tenant satisfaction, improve rentability. They also really valued that these products wouldn't require a professional installation. They liked that adding cooling would have the ability to mitigate health risks during severe weather events. The survey also found that about half of respondents said they would be either somewhat or very likely to install a room heat pump, but they did have some questions around performance of the units and particularly how well they may provide heating. Could they rely on them for a primary heating source? And concerns around window installation and electric bill impacts. And the graph that I showcased here was particularly about policies pertaining to window ACs. I think we've learned anecdotally, and now we have some data behind this, that there are some barriers there to convincing property managers to install a window unit. There's probably some opportunity for education around saddlebags and safety. There's still about 30% of property managers who told us no, they will not allow a window unit, whether that's due to aesthetic or safety instead. So there's some work to be done there in terms of engaging property managers. And the next slide, please. Just to follow up on this point about some challenges within this specific target market, renters are significantly less likely than homeowners to want to purchase a room heat pump. When we ask them a hypothetical question about if their heating system broke or if they wanted to purchase a space heater just to provide additional comfort, how likely would they be to choose a room heat pump after they were educated on the benefits? And you can see that homeowners were twice as likely to say that they'd be very likely to purchase one than renters. I don't think this is entirely unexpected. I think this is right along the lines of what we would expect. Renters are very cost sensitive and they do face additional barriers, cost barriers, both initial upfront and then also concern about bill impacts were more prevalent for renters than for owners. There are some ways to kind of shrink that gap. Again, kind of like we talked about in the induction cooking slides, we asked and probed a little bit on hypothetical scenarios. So in a hypothetical scenario in which the price was competitive with an alternate heating system like a space heater, you can see the jump that occurs. And then you also get a little bit more of a jump up after they've received education about some of the benefits around efficiency. So those are all opportunities there for reaching this market. Next slide.
Wait,
Jeff, did you have a question about that?
Yeah, on the price parity, was that positioned as a comparable price for a space heater plus a room air conditioner, or was it just compared to a room heater, a space heater?
Just space heater for that question. We actually had a different line of questioning about cooling equipment where we asked about that separately.
Because I think that would be the more relevant question, because it's actually replacing two devices.
Yes, for sure. It could be. It could be for sure. But even with, with price parity for space heating, that's, you know, I think when people are thinking about, we did go back and forth on that. I think it's an interesting question, but when you think about consumers and the behavior and what their motivations are, when they're thinking about improving their comfort, or if something broke in their home, like a heater, they're gonna go out and look for a heater. There are gonna be some people who are considering, of course, like what else, you know, maybe the dual heating and cooling aspect is a benefit for them. And there's probably a little more research on that could be done. We decided to go for sort of a one-on-one replacement in the survey to test each out, heating and cooling. But there's definitely something to that, but I think it's specifically, or if you're thinking about a heating need, how likely would you be to use this type of product?
Cyan?
Yeah, the last category, the very likely to learn, is that building on top of price parity, or is that a different category? Did you ask that as a separate question, or did you build on?
It's building on.
Oh, it would be interesting to know without building on, because that doesn't tell me as much.
We could, there's going to be some, I think, broken out data on this in the report, but let me double check, and I'm happy to try to get you some more specifics on that in terms of, are you looking at like the incremental?
I'm just trying to think, you know, if how much more likely are people to purchase it just after learning about the benefits? So
I see.
in case there's not a price parity benefit, then are people likely to, or more likely to just purchase it after learning about the benefits? It seems like it would be a really important.
That's a really good question. Let me look and see what data we have specifically on that, but I do agree with you, and I think that can get into some more sophisticated research designs that maybe CalMTA can consider a little bit more as we continue to delve into consumer research, like, you know, structuring some experimental designs in the survey and things like that. But I agree. Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Should we move on?
Just one more from Haley, and then we're gonna move on to the next. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Haley. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. This may be covered in the future slides, so you can tell me to wait, but I am wondering whether you looked at the population of people who currently don't have AC, but because of climate change are considering getting AC, and talking to them about room heat pumps as an option compared to central AC or a window unit. So both consumer interest and barriers, but also the bill impacts. If the bill impacts if the baseline isn't today, but you're assuming someone's going to add AC, looking at room heat pumps versus the alternatives that consumers might be considering.
Yes, we did. So yes and no. We did look at scenario, and I'm happy to share some more data on that. It's not in these slides. It will be in the report, or I'm happy to follow up with you on the specifics. We didn't incorporate bill impact specifically, but we did ask people about their plans for adding air conditioning, as well as their likelihood to choose a room heat pump if they needed to add cooling. So we do have that data, and it's fairly similar to the heating. I can't remember off the top of my head where those, what that likelihood looked like, but I'm happy to send to you. The bill impact was not something we presented to consumers when we tested them on the survey, because there's so much complexity in terms of baseline equipment, rate structure. And so we decided to simplify and just leave the rate conversation and the bill impact out of that, you know, what we would present to them in testing their willingness to purchase. But it's clearly a really big decision. and will vary based on what they currently own and what their rate structures are. One of the things that I will just toss out there, that another data collection that's happening right now is under the room heat pump self-installation pilot. And we're actually surveying people who have the units installed, and then we're asking them about how this has impacted their bills after using it for a month or two. Not only what bill impacts did they experience, but also how they feel about it, right? Like maybe the added comfort was such a benefit to them that they were willing to pay that price, for the month of August in really hot weather. So we're investigating a little bit using the pilot participants. So that'll be interesting to see.
Will that be in the report? Will there be pilot data in time to at least hint at it in the report?
There's not going to be pilot data in this report, but there will be a report on the pilot.
Yes. Okay.
So yes, again, yes and no, we will have a report on it, but just not in this market characterization because the data collection is still happening.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah,
Jeff,
thank you. Yeah.
Jeff, I'm going to ask you to just wait a minute.
I
I
can
want to
wait.
let Hope get,
Sure.
okay, thanks. I want to just,
Okay.
Hope has 2 more, so I want to make sure she's able to touch on those.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, where are we? Product innovation. Right. Okay, so getting to what Tom was alluding to here. There's a lot of sliding and casement windows in California, and my next slide gives you some stats on that. But right now, the best products to suit those windows are the portable form types. So we feel there's a really great opportunity for CalMTA here, and we'd like to see more product innovation to get a vertical form because the units that fit those sliding and casement windows are less efficient and they're less aesthetically desirable for consumers. Next slide. So 55% of California homes have either sliding or casement or both exclusively with no vertical windows. There's also a large chunk of homes that have a mix of vertically opening windows as well as sliding or casement windows. But right now, the window products that are on the market will not fit this type. Why does it matter? Next slide. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're on the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so the window types, whether that's the saddlebag, a more traditional, box window unit, or a U-shaped unit is pictured here in this image, they offer really high efficiency gains. They are going to be the ones that are eligible under the forthcoming Energy Star specification, which will pave the way for the IRA incentives, which really help with affordability, particularly for limited income households where some of those IRA programs are going to be targeting. Then they have a much sleeker look. We did test the images in our focus groups, and I think we've shared a little bit on this in prior presentations, but consumers really don't like the hoses when they're shown imagery of it. They much prefer the window units. The portable types, there are some opportunities to achieve efficiency and save money on bill impacts. They're just not as efficient as the window types. It's also something that Elaine is going to talk a little bit about. We'd love to see the Energy Star specification really bring up the efficiency of these units by working on amending it to include the portable types. So right now, as of the next couple months or early next year, they won't be included in the Energy Star spec, which means they won't be available for the IRA incentive. And as I mentioned, consumers find the style pretty clunky. So what all that means really is there's an opportunity here for product innovation to fit California climate and windows. Next slide. And then that kind of leads me into the final point, which is based on conversations with other entities like those operating in New York and with manufacturers, technology competitions along with bulk purchase agreements have actually been really effective at spurring product innovation. So that's definitely a strategy that Elaine's going to speak about. Next slide. So probably most folks are aware of this, but Gradient and MyDia both won contracts to manufacture new devices for NYCHA. And that resulted in an entirely new class of cold climate or all weather, whatever we want to call them, saddlebag models. And when we spoke with manufacturers for this effort, we did hear an interest from them in participating in a similar challenge, specifically for a more California climate appropriate product, maybe a different tier in terms of the type 1, 2, 3, 4, something that's less heavy, smaller, less expensive. And we heard that even a bulk purchase of 10,000 to 20,000 units could be enough of a carrot to do so. And then, yeah, just a final note on this. This is an image from the installation pilot that I was just mentioning, and you can just really see the size of these. That's a Gradient saddlebag. Looks great, but they're quite big and hefty. And we also heard that this can also be a barrier for retail. One manufacturer that we spoke with was actually reported that they didn't participate in the NYCHA challenge and haven't invested in an all-weather product because they're worried that the size is going to make it so hard to move the product. They're afraid that retailers won't want to carry them, and that's really their main channel and their revenue. So far they haven't really ventured into innovating on a different climate tier, but hopefully the Energy Star spec will open up some new options so everyone can align on standards. So yeah, that just kind of, leads us into the next discussion about opportunities there for interventions and working with manufacturers on more product innovation. And that's it for me. Did we have any other questions?
Yeah. So Jeff, did your question apply still, or you want to wait for Elaine's section?
I'll wait. It has to do more with intervention strategies. So,
okay. All right, Fred.
I'm not sure you're going to get to this later, but as you looked at barriers, you're looking at consumer side barriers. And to me, the largest barrier for success of this equipment based on experience with other heat pump products is controls integration with backup resistance heat. A lot of, ductless heat pumps and so on are discovering their savings are halved from what's expected. And part of that is because I'm guessing a lot of it is because it's very difficult to integrate with resistance strip heat. And it's harder, but still not that feasible to integrate with centrally controlled resistance heat.
I would just piggyback on that, Fred, because we did a bunch of, as you know, research on that question in the ductless heat pump pilot project that we did. And so there's a behavioral element here too. I mean, the ideal situation would be you would have a control that does both things, the package or the room heat pump and the whatever the auxiliary system is. But here we're most likely to have completely separate systems. So just to Fred's point, it's going to be dependent. The savings will be a big function of behavioral actions by the occupants. So if they prioritize the heat pump as opposed to the backup system, whatever that is, you'll get big savings. But if they do the opposite, you'll get like no savings. So it's just want to throw that out there. It's got to be a piece of the program somehow.
Yeah, I
don't know.
Emphasize this isn't a hypothetical.
It's real.
The evaluation of Energy Trust program showed half the savings they thought, and this is probably a big reason.
We've got other studies that show the same thing, depending on behavior and control.
Yeah, that's a great. Thank you for that. Great point. I don't know if Tom, you want to weigh in on any of that in terms of savings calculations or.
Oh yeah, no, Jeff, we saw some of the studies, the results from the field studies from NIA where people literally just set up a room heat pump next to existing HVAC and there was no interaction and they were fighting against each other, cooling and heating in the same day. So we recognize that that's something we need to be aware of, especially in those displacement cases where there are different HVAC playing together. And we're hoping, in the future we can get some more field information from that and understand user behavior, but also, that's definitely a huge issue for sure.
All right, thanks. Okay, Elaine.
Okay.
Get
all right.
into the nitty gritty and the logic model.
Nitty gritty. Yeah. Well, thanks everybody. I'm back. So I think this one will go more quickly than the induction. There are a lot of similarities. You'll see from an intervention point of view, nuances, of course, with a completely different technology. But I think, it's good to do these at the same time. So next slide, please. So overall, we have, MT theory around room heat pumps are a new class of products that could fill a critical market gap. Again, we're not trying to supplant, ductless heat pumps, but it fills a gap, we think, for this market. Next one there. Through manufacturer engagement, demand aggregation, as you heard from Hope, Energy Star spec work, the current spec and future specification development, leveraging of IRA funds, market awareness building, a whole potpourri of interventions here. We really do think this is a good MTI that could ensure that the market delivers affordable, climate appropriate room heat pumps for California. I think this is a great addition to helping California reach their goal of 6 million heat pumps by 2030. And we'll fill that gap in multifamily and small residential over time. We do think over time, not out of the gate, and we do recognize Gradient has some of this capability already, but the air filtration capability and the use of natural refrigerants over time will definitely be part of this effort. Okay. So again, the snapshot, you've got the icons there on interventions that primarily focus on reaching benefit for the ESJ communities, and a lot of interactive effects between these interventions again. In terms of the long-term impact, we're really looking towards the norm is to purchase a room heat pump instead of backup electric resistance heaters and window AC units. And a subset of these room heat pump products increasingly incorporate air filtration capability and potentially supplanting the need for separate air filters, right? And use a lower GWP. That will take time, but we see that as a long-term play with these products. We also see them as a key technical solution to displacing GHG from inefficient central heating. First intervention will look familiar, very similar to in the induction area. Again, leveraging the work that New York has done, but looking at it from the lens of the needs of California market. How can we build on that work, but drive innovation with the manufacturers on window heat pump that really meets the needs of the window configurations in California and all the climate, and also the climate, more moderate climate needs. So getting more product in that fits in that type 2, type 3 range, and hopefully at lower cost, right? So this intervention will be coupled again with demand aggregation with multifamily building owners and ongoing manufacturer support that will support this product over as it gets deployed in the market. This reaches the barriers around product improvements needed for the California market and product availability, and then leverages both the new market entrants on the national scale with NYSERDA and other markets like NEA, and looking towards leveraging the new federal test procedure for the new Energy Star label and IRA funding and tax credits. We have initial outputs on this one, product roadmap and specification released, coupled with purchase agreements with California housing authorities and multifamily property owners. That's something we think we can get in the near term. And manufacturers respond with a specification and product roadmaps for prototypes for these products appropriate for California. And multifamily building owner values begin to value these products, understand these products, and begin the purchasing process. Midterm, an outcome I think will be to have a greater availability of products that fit this form factor for California, and also temperature appropriate product. And longer term, more products that can serve that, have the capability of air filtration and use of natural refrigerants. That's probably quite a long-term play, but definitely want to include it in here. and overall market share will grow compared to standalone ACs and electric resistance heaters decline. See that as a long-term outcome. So very similar to what we had before. And again, I think a good niche for CalMTA to play in this market. Good opportunity. Also, these two interventions coupled together, looking at, engaging national collaborative on federal test procedures for products suitable for California climates and future Energy Star specifications. Had some conversations about that at the Energy Star Partners meeting. Definitely want to have CalMTA lead a subgroup for the heat pump collaborative on this. There's other parts of the country we know that could benefit, other parts of the country that have casement windows, for example, that could benefit from this, that we want to make sure we bring along to send a larger demand signal to manufacturers. This is also an area where I think we can aggregate our voices and do more around future Energy Star specifications, how these things are even named and called in the market, right? Like there's some area around that we can really try to begin to get over the barrier of, people don't know what these are. They don't understand their functionality in retail. So that's a intervention that I think could help that. Also, we feel like we really do need for this product, probably even more so than induction. We really need to gather, to your point earlier about gathering bill impact data and how folks actually use these products in their home. I'm channeling Christopher Diamond, Jeff, you'll know here from your team, about we really need to understand how folks interact with them, how they turn off their other products, and the bill impacts related to that. So this is going to be an important piece of that. There's others in California that are working to gather this data. I don't think all this data needs to come from CalMTA, but we can serve as a central hub of that data and begin to use that data across multiple other interventions. This gets to the barriers around product improvements needed for the California market. As I mentioned, the performance metrics and labeling misalignment and ambiguity for consumers, definitely something we need to make progress on, and overall market awareness of the functionality and benefits. And it then leverages on the opportunity side, a test procedure that's in development, Energy Star label, and all the IRA funding and tax credits that accrue from that. We have outputs associated with this national collaborative is formed. I think it's already beginning to form, and this is something we can do, now, tomorrow. National collaborative delivers maybe some recommendations on appropriate product for California, and maybe that's coupled with other regions, and labeling to manufacturers, national partners, Energy Star, and other local programs. And we also build on a robust data set available for manufacturers and everybody else on how these products are actually used and interact with other products. So short-term outcomes, the Energy Star is, as Hope mentioned before, we do have an opportunity, we think, it's not the prime focus of this initiative, but to get that type 1 portable product, an Energy Star label. Energy Star has said there is an amendment process that we could pursue for those products. And that's something we think we could do in the near term so that they're included in an opportunity for the associated benefits of Energy Star and other incentives that could tap onto that. And then we could more data available to understand impacts of this for limited income consumers, but just more data available for everybody. Over time, we think there's an opportunity for revised test procedure and federal standard in place for heating that reflects the California climate needs, not only the cold climate areas. Right now, I think California's been really a little bit left off the table, and this is an opportunity for us to come in and make that more robust for California. Long-term federal Energy Star standards and Energy Star specifications increase in stringency. Any questions so far? No? Rolling through it. Okay. Oh, there we go. Sorry, Takwa. So the fourth intervention is really around building awareness about the product's benefits in partnership with aligned organizations. So very similar to the induction. My guess is for this one, we wouldn't be doing this out of the gate. We would be, doing more understanding how the products are used, understanding what these products should be called, doing more research on that. But maybe with certain initial markets, for example, the saddlebag products with Gradient and others, can we target on the messaging and awareness a subsection of the market first, right? Some buildings that have casement windows, for example, not sliders, double hung windows first, right? Got to start there with the products that already exist. But this would be a more robust intervention over time as we get more product and have a better understanding of what messaging and information we really need to get to consumers, like how to use this product in relation to their other products. When is this the right product for them? Things like that need to happen. So this will work to build awareness on the benefits and functionality, and also working on this barrier around metrics and labeling. That is an important one. And this is also leveraging the opportunities on the public health and climate resilience benefits and overall push for heat pumps. This maybe gets to what Haley was talking about earlier, like really targeting those folks who are thinking about AC and don't have AC. If that could be an initial target for something like this, that, okay, well, I'm one of those people here in Portland. Like, should I get this instead of like upgrading my entire furnace to heat pump, which is way more expensive. So I'm a good poster child for that kind of thing. Outputs for this, we would have messaging and marketing plan in place, and then again, we would deliver those tools in partnership with other programs. We might do some marketing on our own, but I think a lot of this would be through the hands of others.
Elaine, I'm going to just interrupt you for a second. Jeff, did you have a question about what she was?
Just a comment here, and Elaine, this won't be any surprise to you, but in our work with ductless heat pumps, we found that it was a lot easier to sell air conditioning to people. And then, oh, by the way, you get a heating system along with your air conditioner for like no extra charge. So I'd strongly encourage you to think about that from a messaging standpoint. And people are often very much in need of air conditioning, and so they go out and will make a very expensive purchase when that 120-degree day shows up. So if that could be a heat pump, it's a lot easier to justify at the time of an air conditioning purchase. So that was one thing. Second thing was just, I think, as you know, in the Northwest, we actually have a lot of units that don't have air conditioning either, especially in multifamily. And so we have a lot of similar market characteristics and would love to collaborate on the messaging as well as, the national product development roadmap and engagement with manufacturers. And of course, we have connections to other regional organizations that we'd also like to leverage. So there is indeed a national collaboration here that we strongly encourage working together on.
Yeah, I'm definitely think there's a all host of opportunity to work collaboratively nationally on this one in particular.
Thanks.
I was going to say something to what you said, Jeff.
Sorry.
Remember, that's okay. That's all right. It'll come to me later. So short-term outcomes, we really see manufacturers and market partners adopt more consistent product labeling and product descriptions, and market confusion declines. Oh, I know what I was going to say now. So this could work really well, as you mentioned, with retailers, right? So right now, these products are seasonally, window AC units are all stocked in April and May in anticipation. So can we work with retailers on that? This is something that is part of their promotions. And, oh, by the way, you get heating as well if you buy this. And in addition, we've also looking at some of the climate resilience programs that are giving away window AC units now, right? This is happening in Oregon. I'm sure this is happening in California, especially for vulnerable communities during heat events. These are also natural partners in something like this. So yeah, back to the outcome. So we see, the labeling confusion, lessening over time. We see market partners continue growing awareness of the benefits of these products. You know, we're going to be leveraging overall, you know, this people's understanding of what the heck is even a heat pump, right? We know that there's a hierarchy of need here. People don't understand heat pumps at all, and then do they understand this particular product in the heat pump class? So I think there'll be an opportunity to grow with this intervention around that. Midterm outcomes, looking for consumer awareness of the benefits and features to grow, especially within the multifamily market and their key influencers like building managers, building owners. And overall market share should grow in relation to the other window ACs and you know, standalone products for those features. Okay. So I think this is an important one in terms of, you know, working in this is a new class of product. There's not a lot of incentives in California associated with this. There's folks that are very interested in this. How can CalMTA support this product being included in the ESA program, for example, or other programs that could really benefit from it? So, you know, we've talked about how do we get these in the TRMs, what other tools are needed for these products to be included with other EE programs, climate resilience programs, as I mentioned, that will really work to reduce the initial product cost and operation cost for these communities. And again, this hits the barriers of higher purchase price if there's incentives behind it, bill impacts, if it's coupled with, you know, something like LIHEAP programs that help offset those costs for low income, and work overall on a market awareness and functionality if other programs are taking this on in their portfolio, and leveraging the Energy Star Energy Star specs and development, and the label Energy Star label, of course. Outputs around this, again, very similar: program tools, use cases, benefits, messaging, manufacturer product buy down potentially, and delivered for programs to leverage. I think we've talked about, you know, a tool needed, you know, when are these products the right choice, you know, versus doing a mini split or other, you know, there's choice tools that are needed for the market to make sense and understand these products. Sorry, Carol, I misspoke that. It's a program. Programs begin to include product as a measure in their programs. Midterm consumer awareness of the benefits and features grow, starting with a multifamily. I think we'd really want to get to that market sooner than later. More California appropriate products are installed, and overall price declines as demand increases. And then long-term market share again. Fred, you have a question?
Yeah, this is about the overall strategy, and I'm following up on my own comment on controls integration. Anecdote and then I'll generalize. I put in a whole house heat pump, and I wound up putting in a cold climate heat pump in a moderate climate to eliminate backup heat, because I didn't trust any system to integrate and control the two. Didn't trust me and my family either, by the way. Behaviorally, that wasn't going to solve the problem. We just go in circles amongst us. I'm wondering if the whole idea of getting to a sort of a moderate temperature product, do you want a product in moderate climate zones that will work all the time so you can disconnect backup heat? Because, I mean, one solution is to figure out controls integration. We haven't done so well at that. The other one is to eliminate backup. Yeah, absent one or the other, I don't think this heat pump products in general are not working very well in the absence of one solution or the other.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm a big fan of heat pump products, but yeah.
Tom, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think that's a good point, because
Yeah.
you either have one that is maybe, not doing all the heating, but then it needs the integration, or it's all on all the time and it needs to be, all weather. So I think that's something we should better incorporate into our thinking and our strategy.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I would just weigh in that if especially if we're thinking about multifamily and we're thinking about ESJ communities or other, underserved communities, a cold climate heat pump is going to be more expensive. And it's worth some investigation into behavioral modification. And I don't disagree with Fred on controls integration. It's been a bust. We haven't figured that out. But I would like to see you guys at least think about for a low first cost implementation of this that would work 80% of the time, Tom, like you were talking about 80% of the hours, and using education with the end users to just say, use this as long as you can until you can't stand it anymore. And then only turn on your other system for, until you get to back to where you can use the other system. I think that's worth a try. I'm not saying it's going to work every time, but for the particular communities mentioned, the ESJ community and the multifamily in particular, it's definitely the lowest cost implementation of these products. Lowest first cost, I should say.
Are you proposing an additional intervention just around that? Or is that incorporated into marketing? Or I'm just trying to think of how would I
No, I think
integrate that?
It's a good point, Elaine, that because of this backup potential problem, you have these two options, like Fred said. You can buy the more robust unit and it completely displaces the other system altogether. But that's going to be a more expensive option for 20% of the hours. And so I think this is the behavioral component of this, because it is a room unit, is an important element to address somewhere in here. And so I don't know whether it might be part of one of the other interventions or whether it's a separate.
Yeah, I'll think about that.
Yeah,
it's good feedback. Thanks. Okay.
All right.
I don't know, Tom, if you were going to add anything else, but I think we're good. Okay. We're good. Okay. So number 6, very similar, and there's economies of scale by, leveraging these two initiatives together with the retail channel. As Hope mentioned, right now these products, if they are in the retail channel, they're very hard to find. They're not labeled very clearly. But we certainly think over time, this is an opportunity. As Tom mentioned, I did hear that at this Energy Star Partners meeting, there is a major manufacturer coming out with a product type 3, that their goal is to come out through retail, and it would be pretty affordable. And so it's starting to happen here, and that's something we can, really put something behind in the retail channel as these products come online. Higher purchase price, again, looking at that, barriers around that, market awareness, functionality and benefits, and availability in California. These are all the barriers that would intervention would work to overcome, and leveraging, of course, the test procedure in Energy Star. Outputs would be retailer partner agreements, incentive tracking, and retail data sharing. Well, short-term outcomes would be around retailers begin to stock and sell more affordable products in predominantly ESJ communities, because we would be deploying the model that we have piloting right now. I think this is an area where we really can help, what is the right messaging on where these products go and how they're used, maybe through retail. That's an opportunity to really do some of that work that you're talking about, Jeff. Midterm, we would have consumer awareness of benefits and features grow, especially in the multifamily market. Midterm, we see price declines, maybe the price declines of these, of the new versions coming out. And this data is important data for overall revised test procedures and federal standards in the long term. And then overall market share grows. This one is, I think this is, again, falls in that vein of what is CalMTA's real role here? What can we do? But I think it's in the vein of, if we want these products in the mid to long term use natural refrigerants and move that over time. We really, are in a supportive role to others that are going to be advocating for that. What can we do to support that? It's in this MTI's interest to support that over time. Maybe this is through lab testing, maybe this is through data, ongoing manufacturer engagement. Not quite sure what this looks like, but CalMTA would definitely have an interest in keeping this moving in California market. And, the barriers is this one, there's a lot of market resistance to use of natural refrigerants, ASHRAE, a lot of folks who are not on board on this, and it's definitely going to take time and a long-term play here. And it could do data, white paper, advocacy plans on all product, these understanding what's happening in Europe on this. There's areas where I think we can bring that to bear in the California market. Jeff, you want to go? Question?
I was just going to reinforce this. This is a place where California could have a really large role in breaking what I consider to be a national sort of stalemate around natural refrigerants that seems, I don't know, it seems like it's not necessary.
Especially for hermetically sealed products like this.
Exactly. Like your refrigerator, this should just be like your refrigerator. So it's not serviced. The refrigerant is not serviced. It's a hermetically sealed product. So I really think California could serve a huge role here and do something that would benefit not just California, but the whole national market, which would lower costs to Californians if you can get the scale of the entire US to go. So strongly support this one.
Thank you. Okay. Outcomes might be, European product case studies, manufacturer, continue. There's some manufacturers who are asking us to help on this. Are there others? I've heard resistance from others, like, no way, that's not going to happen. So over time, can we build manufacturer support? Other agencies in California that might have more regulatory efforts on this, can we work on awareness and to lessen some of the barriers around this adoption over time? Midterm, key standard setting bodies armed with the guidance on refrigerants based on our manufacturer feedback and other, data and information we can bring to bear from Europe. And then long-term, maybe 6 to 10 years, we can get this upgraded so that we can use natural refrigerants in these products. I'm not sure if that timeline, I don't not worked in this area, but
I was just going to suggest whether California could explore setting their own standards. California's done it in all kinds of other areas, and just say we are going to accept natural refrigerants in these products in the state of California. And I don't know if there's jurisdiction for that or not, but I would certainly explore that.
Yeah. But CalMTA, I don't think could do that on our own. Are there others who would be the standard setting body to do that in California?
Well, it could be the It could be the CEC. It could be the air regulatory agencies like CARB. I don't know, but it would be worth checking out because of the stature that California has by itself as a state standard setting body.
Okay, we will definitely do that. Okay, that's
we had 2 8s, so apologies.
Oh,
that
sorry,
was 7
that's my bad.
That's my bad. So this is 8.
8. Okay, last one. So, this is very similar. This is even more pronounced in the room heat pumps. We really need to figure out if we can support the movement towards electrification enabling rates, so people aren't penalized for moving away from their gas furnaces to this product in the long term. And what kind of data can we bring to bear? What kind of manufacturer engagement, things like that we can help this over the long term. This is a really important one for helping mitigate bill impacts, especially for ESJ communities, and leveraging the overall push for heat pumps, because certainly this is not the only product that faces that. Outputs around, again, policy map, advocacy plans with appropriate CalMT role identified, and what kind of supporting data and research can we bring to bear. Short-term outcome, more data available on the impacts for limited income consumers. midterm prevalence of more rates. We think this is a movement, of course, happening in the state, and we want to make sure we can help that. And then overall, that this is a reduced barrier and use of these products. Sorry, that was a fast one, but I think that's it.
Yeah, could I throw out one thing here specific to this? So these are heating, we're talking about heating systems here, which means they're going to be consuming energy during periods in California where the solar output is going to exceed the loads in California by some pretty large amount, because California is often selling excess solar and renewable energy on the wholesale markets up to us, actually, in the Northwest. But the curtailment of solar during the wintertime in California is approaching a very large number. And if there were a way to take that curtailed solar capacity and pass it through to heat pump heating equipment or electric heating equipment in the wintertime, you could turn the rate structures upside down in terms of what its impact would be. Because if that solar plant's already paid for and it's being curtailed because there's no market for it, California's often paying Arizona to take power. So it's actually a negative price for the electricity generated by curtailed solar. So how can we reflect that back to the rate structures for newly added electric heating load in California? Just a thought.
Yeah, I'm
Christy,
not sure.
Christy, you can
Others
slap
might
me
be able
around
to.
later, but
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
I think we're going to skip these if that
Yeah, we
is in
can skip
interest of
these.
time. Yeah. So go ahead, Takwa. You can skip down to the next section. Well, these slides will be posted on the website, but it's similar to what we've already shared. So.
Any questions? Yeah,
I'm
going to stop sharing for 1 second. Sorry, but I'll be right back.
Okay. Any other questions for Elaine? She's gonna has to leave for to travel back, but
plane in a few minutes.
Just give her an opportunity to answer anything.
Elaine, could you look at the question in the chat about low income?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I see that. My understanding is Stacy, our definition for LI is limited income. We don't call it low income. Limited income. Is that right?
My mistake then. I tried to answer it.
It's close. Thank you though for trying.
Okay, thanks. Probably need a glossary.
Yeah, again, in the MTI plans, you will see there's a lot more under the hood for these. This is just high level. So yeah, but certainly if there are any big pillars you think are missing from this, love to hear from you and yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Elaine, Tom, and Hope. That was a lot of information, but very good, basis of understanding of these initiatives that we're working to put forward. And, if we have time at the end, we can take more questions, but always, any questions that the MTAB members have, we can take those along the way. And then I know folks had questions in the chat. If they weren't answered, we'll work to get those answered, like I mentioned before. Fred, did you want to keep going?
Wrong button.
Oh, okay, no problem. Okay, so now we have, so this is the part of the agenda that I flipped just to let Elaine go catch her flight. So it says 3 here, but it's obviously not the third item on the agenda. But we're going to go ahead and hear from Jeff Mitchell. So just Jeff will give a little bit of a sort of orientation